Alright guys, what we're doing today is lesson 1.3, linear equations in two values. So using slope, the simplest mathematical model for relating two variables is the linear equation in two variables, y equals mx plus b, equation of a line. It's linear because it's a line. Yeah. So, the line crossed to the x-axis is y equals b, as shown here. Because when we have y equals mx plus b, the b value is the y-intercept. In other words, the y-intercept, yep, just what I said. The slope of a non-vertical line is the number of units that the line rises vertically for each unit that it changes left or right. So we're talking about rise over run. Slope. Change in y over change in x. A linear equation written in slope-intercept form has the equation y equals mx plus b. Y'all know why it's called slope-intercept form? Because what is m for this here? It's the slope, and b is our what? Yeah, y-intercept. Yeah. So this equation has slope and y-intercept. So it's the slope-intercept form. They literally named it what it was. So y equals mx plus b is a slope-intercept form because the two main parts of it, it has a slope, it has the intercept. Now, if the equation, or if the line's a vertical line, it has no slope. Because when we talk about slope, m, it is rise over run. The change in y over the change in x. And if we look at this here, there is a change in the y-axis. There is a positive or negative amount. It's moving up or down, yes? How far is this line moving to the left or right? From any 2 points on there? None. So for our slope, we're saying that there is a value for the change in y, but there is no value for the change in x. We cannot divide by 0. So that means that the slope for this is undefined. If we say the slope's undefined, it means it's a straight line up and down. And it's x equals that value. All right, if we wanted to sketch the graph of a line, we have it here. This here, the 2 is our slope. The 1 is our y-intercept. Because we have it in y equals mx plus b form, we get the slope and the y-intercept. Now they tell us the y-intercept is 1, positive 1. So for this here, it's going to cross the graph, cross the y-axis at 1. Now the slope is 2. Now it's not specifically written as 2 over 1, but the rise, how far it goes up and down, is 2, and the amount it goes left and right is 1. Now there's 2 directions we can go. We can go up 2 and over 1, because since it's positive 2, we do have a slope that is increasing from left to right, so we can go up 2, right 1, positive is up, right is also positive. The other direction we can go is down 2 and left 1, because down 2 is negative, left 1 is negative, and our negative would make a positive. And the last thing we have to do is draw our line. That's not bad. And that's it. The most points we need for a line is 2. We need 2 points to make a line. 5 to make a parabola. There's b equals 1, the intercept's 1, slope's 2. And that's it. Let's look at this one here, y equals 2. So it does tell you the y-intercept is 2. What's our slope? Almost. So it's saying y is 2 for this here, yes? So where I put the dot is a y value of 2, yes? Where are other values on this where y is 2? Well, right here, yes? Because this line is all the spots where y is 2. Because when we have it as y equals mx plus b, well, our 2 and b do line up. They match up, yes? But we don't have an x. And the only way we can get rid of this x is if the value of m, our slope, is what? What do you think it would be? Because they're multiplying together, yes? Well, it's the only number we can multiply by that will make it go away. Yeah. So the slope for this here is 0. It's not increasing, it's not going up, it's not going down, it is a flat line. Now, by writing this equation, y equals 0 times x, you can see that the y-intercept is 0, 2. The slope is 0, and a slope that implies that the line is horizontal. It does not rise or fall. When we have y equals, we have a flat line. And whatever the y value is, y equals 2, so it's a flat line at 2. Now conversely, let's say that we had an equation x equals 3. Let's just say negative 3. So where is x negative 3? It's right down here, yes? Because when it's x equals, y equals is a flat line, x equals is going to be a vertical. Because we want a line showing all the values where x is equal to negative 3. So it's going to go straight up and down. X equals is vertical up and down, y equals flat line. Which is the last thing you want an EKG to do. Sketch the graph of x plus y equals 2. Now there's different ways we could go about this. One is rewriting this as y equals mx plus b. So to do that, we can subtract x from both sides, telling us y is equal to negative x plus 2. And now that we have it in this form, we can see that the y-intercept is still positive 2. And our slope is going to be the number in front of x. The only number in front of x is negative 1. So from here, we're going to go down 1, right 1, or up 1, left 1. Questions on how we found this here? And at this point, we can draw a line, and we have this here. Questions on this here? Now, this isn't necessarily the way I would come at this, and the reason I say that is because of standard form. How many points do we need to graph a line? 2, yes? Well, if it's a line, it will intersect the x-intercept when the y value is 0. And we have a y-intercept when the x value is 0, yes? Now for our x-intercept, y equals 2. So since we're finding the x-intercept, what's the value of y? Well, the value of y at the x-intercept would be 0. So we can plug it in. X plus 0 equals, because we can plug that value in and solve as needed. Because if we had, say, 3x, well, we would divide by 3, we get our point. So it's telling us that the x-intercept is 2, 0. We can do the same thing with the y-intercept. But this time we're replacing x with 0. So the y-intercept is 0, 2. The x-intercept is 2, 0. We have 2 points. We're done. I think that's a little bit nicer than getting it as y equals into y equals mx plus b, finding our points, because cover up the y, solve for x. Cover up the x, solve for y. We have our 2 points, we're done. That's it. Okay, finding the slope. Given an equation, we can find the slope from 2 points. Thus, changing y over changing x. Slope is equal to change in y over change in x, rise over 1. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. As long as x2 is not equal to x1. Essentially, it's saying as long as the slope is not vertical, it's not undefined. And just as a side note, we can do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We can also do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. You can't flip. Whichever y goes first, its corresponding x has to go first. That's all this is saying. So if we were given the point 3, 4, and 5, 7, we can plug them in. So we can do the 7 and 5 first, 3 and 4 second. So 7 minus 4 is 3, 5 minus 3 is 2. And we get 3 halves. Conversely, we can flip it. Do 4 minus 7, 3 minus 5. We get negative 3 over negative 2, which is still 3 halves. Either way, we'll get the same values, but we got to make sure that we have the corresponding point, x and y values for the point going first. Yes. Yes. So let's look at A. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what's our y value? One of the y values for A. 0. Minus 1. Which x value has to go first now? Negative 2 minus 3. Well, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. Telling us this is 1/5. Questions on the first one? Let's look at the second one. Well, both of the values are 2. So we put the x values, corresponding x values in. Well, 2 minus 2 on top is negative 1 minus 2 is 0 divided by negative 3 is 0. C. I'm going to go 4 first, so 4 and 0, and then negative 1 and 1. Well, our 4 minus negative 1, the negative and negative make a plus, giving us 5. 0 minus 1 is negative 1, and 5 divided by negative 1 is negative 5. Finding slope. We can do this one more time. 4 minus 1, 3 minus 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 minus 3 is, what is 3 divided by 0? We can't divide by 0. So it's undefined. Because if we think about the last one graphically, on a coordinate plane, so what we have is the point 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the other point is 3, 1. You want to try up and down. There is no slope. It's undefined. Questions on finding the slope? Writing linear equations in 2 variables. So if a point is on a line and the slope is m and xy is any other point on the line, then we can use the 2 points to find the slope, or with a point and the slope, we can use point-slope form. You know why we call this one point-slope? Because the main thing that makes up this equation is what? A point and the, so they called it point-slope. They're literally naming these equations with exactly what makes them a point and a slope. Is the most useful for finding the equation of line. Because with point-slope form, as long as I have the point and the slope, we can find it. Find the slope-intercept form from this here. Now they gave us a point, they gave us the slope. So we can start off with point-slope form. Now they gave us the slope of 3, so we can replace m with 3. Now the point they gave us is 1, negative 2, so the x value of the point on the line is 1, the y value is negative 2, so we plug those in. So all I've done is taken point-slope and plugged in the point and the slope. Now the last thing we need to do is get it into slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. How to do that? One of the first things we're going to do is distribute the 3. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Here our negative and negative make a plus. And last but not least, we need to get y by itself, so we will subtract 2, telling us y is equal to 3x minus 5. Questions on this here? Questions on how we found the equation of y? Now we actually have something called 2-point form. 2-point form I think is overly complicated for the pure sake of it just being complicated, because at this point you're better off finding the slope and plugging it into point slope form than trying to use 2-point form. All right. Parallel and perpendicular lines. Two lines are parallel if their slopes are the same. Two lines are perpendicular if the slopes are the opposite reciprocal. Change the sign and flip it. Now, another way we can say that two lines are perpendicular is if we take their slopes and multiply them together and get -1. Because you change the sign and flip it. So, find the slope-intercept form of the equations of the lines that pass through the point 2, -1, and are A, parallel to, and then B, perpendicular to this equation here. Now, before we can do anything with finding the parallel and perpendicular lines, we first need to find the slope of this line. Because once we have the slope, we can get the parallel slope and the perpendicular slope. And to do that, well, it's going to be helpful to get this in y equals mx plus b form. So we can subtract 2x from both sides. And our 2x minus 2x tells us that -3y is equal to -2x plus 5. And lastly, we're going to divide everything by -3. -3y divided by -3 is y. -2x divided by -3, -2 divided by -3 is going to be positive 2/3 x. 5 divided by -3 is -5/3. Now, the main thing we wanted for this is to figure out the slope. And the slope of this original line is 2/3. So when we find the line that is parallel to it, the parallel slope is also going to be 2/3. And we can use the point that's given with our point slope form. So we'd have replace y1 with -1. We'll place m with 2/3. And we'll replace x with 2. Now our negative is going to make a positive, so we'll have y plus 1 is equal to, here we have to distribute the 2/3. 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. 2/3 times -2 is going to be -4/3. Lastly, we have to get y by itself, so we will add 1 to both sides, telling us y is equal to 2/3 x minus 1/3. Yes, we would subtract it. Thank you. Apparently my brain spaced out for about a second. As we would indeed subtract 1, which would not be 1/3, because that would change it to 7/3. Thank you. That was a good catch. Questions on how we found this here? Yes, sir. Yes. We're ready to move on to B. Now for B, it's going to be very similar to what we did for A. But with B, our slope is the opposite reciprocal. So reciprocal means we're going to flip it from 2/3 to 3/2. And opposite means we're going to change it from positive to negative. If it was negative, it would become positive. And now that we have the slope, we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to plug our -1 in for y, and our 2 in for x. And this time we're plugging -3/2 in for the slope. And just like before, our negative negative is going to make a positive. And like before, we're going to distribute the slope. So this time we're multiplying through by negative 3/2. So that'll tell us that we have negative 3/2 x. Our negative and negative is going to make a positive. But this time, negative 3/2 times negative 2, or 3/2 times 2, is going to be positive 3. And lastly, we're going to subtract 1, telling us y is equal to negative 3/2 x plus 2 is our perpendicular line. Questions on this here? Solve for the equation, got the original line. Flip it, find our other two. This would be the graphs of those lines. Particular. That's it.